also have a real soft spot for vintage tools. For instance, I have a Skyber in the shop that is Landis, and it is definitely vintage. We can't find parts when it breaks, so we have to make them. So you can see over there, we've got some.
Yeah, I've got tools that I like to collect things that that people have never seen before. Instead of using, the router that you use to make your signs, this is my router. If you want a router that goes around circles, and this is that router. A lot of the tools are handmade, hand repaired, hand polished. I think it's much more fun to buy a saw that looks like that and just rub it, rub it and rub it and rub it. That's pretty much what the whole job is. You rub the edges of leather to polish them. You rub wood to sand it. You rub steel to make it sharp. So that's pretty much how we've got to where we are.
Yep.
We started we just started out with craft shows about 3 years ago, making, where is it?
I don't think we have any. Oh, yes.
Stuff like this out of a pallet. And we got frustrated at selling things for $3 a piece. So we started doing leather stuff, and most people say that we've done okay. Any questions?
What do you each part of, or do you each, like, one does wood and one does leather, or do you?
It's an interesting thing. Many things we do collaborate on. Like this, we're looking at this, our little pen case. I'll do the wood design. I told him I love bees. Please make me a honeycomb. So he did, and I'm really fussy, kind of line up, you see seams, and then I cut the leather, make sure it's right, pick the hardware, and do surprises. So it can hold stamps, little bills. It's an office for your purse or your briefcase. And this one has a fancy closure. Some are magnetic. And if you don't like what's inside and you want something different, we say, no problem. We take it out and we make what you want. Some things he does do all by himself, and other things I do by myself.
I don't think I could make two that matched if I tried. So yeah, everything is bespoke. Everything is special. I've made a few. I made 12 walnut box frames, and 2 of them got covered with walnut and lined with velvet for a customer. The next one after that is on my bench now, and after learning a little bit more about Rycroft, we joined in November.
Yes.
Found out about it and joined in November. So anyways, we found out that Rycroft was doing the book binding. So one of those walnut frames with the box joint, figure joint corners is going to have essentially a book cover on it. We're going to put the leather across the back with the ribs and the cardstock. So literally it's going to make a book binding, mount it to a wooden box. It will probably be a writer's kit or a painter's pochade box because of that nature, probably a writer's kit.
Probably.
She makes some nice leather notebooks and stuff. We gave one of those for the Christmas party. So we'll probably have a couple of A5 notebooks, a roll for your fountain pens. It'll be in a box that actually has a book cover made for it. We're doing a show shortly at Shay's. What's it called?
The Equinox show for the Witching Hour market.
So I'm making basically a tarot card box. This is a cherry box. The bottom of it is lined with Spanish cedar. The buffalo box is also lined with Spanish cedar. The idea being that you can keep your herbs, since it's the tarot card show, basically, expecting sage or whatever, in the bottom with your cards and your beads and your gemstones. The cover of that Has this got the sheepskin on the inside for the gusset?
Oh, yeah. There's the other side is better.
The other side's better?
Yes. Oh,
That's probably the
We-
lid is gonna be covered with
we buy our leather from multiple sources.
this.
If
sheepskin.
you want a soft
Oh,
leather,
you open it up. This.
we kind of
Yeah,
get that
inside.
information when you talk
But
to
the
us. The
inside of
soft
this.
leather's usually chrome tan. It's
See how it's
usually
printed
brightly
with the-
colored like the red or blue.
That's hand sewn.
and because
Almost
it-
everything is
Chrome
hand sewn.
tanned, it has to
We've
go through a
had to
process that's
machine
tumbled
sew
more,
some of
which
the,
breaks the leather down,
yes,
which makes
if
it
it was
soft.
hand sewn or machine sewn.
We
um,
do buy it
Some
soft.
of the, we
I
haven't
don't
figured out
have a
yet
dryer that's
how to do an
industrial
acceptable
enough
job
to
of hand
make that,
sewing on a hair on
that leather
hide.
break down.
So we sew
But
it
I
with a
do
hand,
have
with
veg
the
tan, and
machine.
that's typically
Oh.
more structured.
So a lot of the,
thicker.
she's made a couple of purses that have pockets and structure inside. And we'll sew
Absolutely.
the pockets and lining on the machine.
I use my hands to sew most of the things.
But everything else
But
is,
you have I have an industrial
it's
machine,
hand sewn.
a Juki, 1451
This guy
X, I
here
believe
is
it
a-
is. And it has a
That's
servo
hand
motor,
sewn
so it can slow down.
because
When I have a really thick
um,
piece, I go slower.
Have you figured
but
out
I
how
have
to
to amp
punch
the,
the hair on hide
the
and see where you did it? We lose
horsepower
we
for
lose
the
the
motor,
cuts.
so it has to go through all
So
of it.
This is
You want to see this?
half done.
Yes.
And this is
So
called
yeah,
Holy
it's a
Cow.
lot of fun to learn what leathers will withstand what and what makes you work a little bit
Thank you
more.
so much.
This particular leather is something called a pull leather. So if you run your finger on it, you'll see that it turns a little bit lighter every time you do anything to it. I like to say it's the journey.
And the beehive,
Hand hammered
Yes.
copper rivet.
that one in the tree?
I know we laminate it. You're saying, do we cut it specific?
Is it-
What we did.
No,
okay,
it's solid.
It's
It's
solid.
solid. Every honeycomb, yeah, bring it on. Every
can see it.
honeycomb is,
Finger.
you don't need that finger.
Thank you.
So you can see it when you look close. Every honeycomb is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14 pieces.
That would be marked.
It's
It's like inlaid.
solid.
Together?
Put it together. I actually build it.
We
I
actually
actually
built
build it in
canes.
6-foot-long sticks.
shape.
So I cut you know what's going on. So I cut the half of the honeycomb in a 6-foot-long maple stick. I laminate the walnut to the two sides, plane it by hand. Then laminate the walnut to the bottom of it, plane the angle by hand. Laminate the two halves together, then cut the halves into pieces the size of a scallop, and then put them together as a block. So, anybody want to see this? Everything's up here. Come up and see it and play with it and throw it across the room, whatever. The other thing that surprised me is I had to sharpen everything. Everything is dull. You know the little snap-off knives? We buy the snap-off knives to cut leather with. So I take them out of the package and I take them to the leather strop and I sharpen them. And they're about twice what they were. I've started getting some hammers and tools. This little guy, the print on the side of it says C. Hammond Fila, just Charles Hammond out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And when I got this, I got pictures of it on our website and wherever. This was black. The ends were curled over and peened over and just absolutely ugly. So I rubbed it. My favorite joke is that I actually went to carve the face. So I tried to make the face, and even though I didn't know Kathy, was I able to make the face look exactly like you? But so that hammer, C. Hammond changed the name to Hammond and Son in 1852. So that's pushing 200 years old. This one, this is violently sharp. Most knives are sharpened at like a 40-degree angle, 45-degree angle. Our leather working is sharpened to 15 degrees. So it will absolutely lay you open. But this is an old file.
How long will you have to sharpen that?
When I work, I work, does anybody want to see? When I work, it's called a leather strop, the same thing the barber used to use. Jewelry,
Hit it with a mallet. I have
Who's
freaking
jewelry?
irons.
your jewelry.
Now, did you
Um,
start that first?
Use jeweler's rouge to polish.
Because I like that detail.
What's the green?
Chip up.
That's-
Yes. So white is, what's white?
It's great. Oh, that's
Red is? What's green?
I know they use the green when they use the stones for lapidary work. Might be that.
Basically, what I've got is I've got the same jeweler's rouge that you use to polish your jewelry with. I'm told that the white is softer and coarser, that the jeweler's rouge, the red that you use on gold, is on copper, okay, is it's a medium grit, and the green is extra fine. So I'm actually polishing the knife edge as bright as you'd polish jewelry or your fine silver. And I have a strop with the rouge rubbed onto it at my bench, and I will sharpen every 2 or 3 feet of cut. So continuously. But that also means I don't have to go back to, well, I'm going to start out with this with a belt sander. I'm going to put this on the belt sander. I'm going to make it straight. Then I'm going to mark it. And I'm going to actually hand file all of the teeth back into it. So this guy here, when I got this entire blade, I think it had a 16th-inch chunk taken out of it. So I take this blade that's 175 years old. I put it on a bench grinder and just chew it flat, and then put an angle back onto it. Ended up buying the vintage tools for doing all the sharpening and all the work with. Isn't that nice? Did you guys get it? You saw it already.
Wait, I'll take it.
So yes, on the inside of the goat. That's what I was showing her over here is the walnut box for the tarot cards. The lid is actually going to be covered in that leather with the
Yeah.
butterflies on it.
I like to put little elements of surprise. So when you're looking at something and it looks ordinary, there's this little peekaboo moment. So you're like, that's why I like it. So
Let's see where to go. This guy here with the rivets on it. I'm actually hammering all the rivets myself. I learned how to do 1-inch real steel rivets in overhead cranes. So why not do little ones on the, yeah, because with all of the work I've done with the different materials. I mean, I've worked steel, I've worked wood, fiberglass. So we just make different things.
I know you're married to a Greek flag.
Well, it's even worse than that. We
even
see
worse
something
than
that inspires us. So we take 10 pictures that have inspired us and we decide that we're going to do this. And then we decide that we're going to do this. And I've got a 4 by 8 foot whiteboard on wheels in the shop. And we write down what everything is going to be. And then you turn that around and there's a 3 by 5 whiteboard that's the project at hand, and she's going to be cutting this part for it, and I'm going to be making that part for it. But this one over here has got that done, so it needs to have this put on before I can do the next step. And then under that's the 2-foot square whiteboard of what I actually am supposed to try to accomplish this afternoon.
to answer your question, it's like the recipe you don't write down. It's really
And then it goes
bouncing
off the
ideas back
rails,
and
and we do whatever. One of the beautiful walnut boxes that I put together for a customer. they tested the steam heat in the
Mhm.
building, and one of the steam valves failed. Not over this particular thing, but it failed in that corner of the room, and it made it 105 degrees and 90% humidity for 5 hours.
In our shop.
And in the morning, the bottom of the walnut box had a 1/4 inch rip where it had pulled itself apart. So it went back to her shop where she made up a pint of black epoxy, poured it, or poured epoxy in to stabilize the rift, and back into sanding. And
Yeah, it took 30 days to let it really sit up and solidify because epoxy needs time to cure.
where's the buffalo?
Oh,
The
the
buffalo guy. That's my first attempt. That's actually an inlay. That's actually um, I got a pallet that had an oak pallet that had an ugly knot. We cut it into really thin pieces. Um, took that one, and she made a gold epoxy. What's her powder? Mica
mica
powder.
powder.
So the cracks in that, when you look at it, they're actually filled with gold epoxy with mica powder, so they sparkle. Carved out the buffalo with the X-Acto knives and little carving chisels. And
I'm very much the wishy-washy. I'm gonna go and do this now, and he's very much the technical, measure it out and make sure all the lines are straight. We pretty much drive each other
see the
bonkers.
straight lines.
Straight lines everywhere.
You see the straight lines.
Yeah.
Run with it. Doesn't matter. Let's go.
Doesn't matter.
This side too.
I wanted it to be that way.
So that's, I mean, really, she's a classically trained singer, a classically trained flute player. She's got the open hold sterling silver handmade flute. I worked with live audio. I've worked with probably 4,000 or 5,000 artists that you know. Usually, if I ask you your 3 favorite bands, I've usually worked with at least one of them. Everything from playing basketball with Britney Spears to Pavarotti to the Harlem Boys Choir. But I did a lot of art stuff because we were over by Vermont and Massachusetts. And I had this bluegrass band that came in with a suitcase with a drum kick pedal on it. And this guy had 250 handmade, hand-tuned. I don't even know how you make ceramic discs ring. He had all these little tiny ceramic discs, and he hitting them with. I got to be artistic as well, and it just comes out in this.
He told me the other day how I design a bag is I design it like a piece of choral music is designed, where you've got the bass, tenor, alto, and soprano. Took me a couple days to figure it out, but I did see it after a while, where I have that base
So it's all layered.
material and I layer on top of that, what looks good to me. So it's a different way of looking at design. For all of this. When I learned to sew using patterns. So I learned a lot of theory about sewing that way. When I met his mom, she did not use a pattern. And I thought that was extraordinarily courageous. And I admired her for that. And I just watched for 10 years as she would just say, I'm going to go make a pair of shorts. And she did. She just could look at it. So I learned to look at what she was looking for. If I have an idea in mind, what is the shape of that idea, and break it down and just think about it. And that's where he comes in. I'll tell him, I want to make this bag. It looks like this. I think it's this shape. And he'll measure it out for me, and we'll come up with it. And then I'll just say, okay, I'm going to use this material, that material, and this is where you're going to come in, and off we go.
Occasionally, we do buy a few patterns,
A few.
but we pretty much use them for scale.
Yeah, we part them out.
And then, I mean, whatever in the crane company, I became a very skilled steel fabricator.
Yeah.
And once you learn to fabricate in any medium, they're all the same. The welding in this is a much cooler process and involves string instead of wire. The wood is, more glue. I don't think any of the things I have today. The only fasteners I have, I use some upholstery tacks to hold the leather to the wood
Mm.
because I haven't found an adhesive that, well, I'm a brute. So, I mean, the first time we built one, I put the leather on the wood and we put it on and I went, well, that's not going to work.
Went
So we
back to
put
drawing board.
the tacks in it and I can give you one side and I can pull on the other side and something's going to tear, but it's not going to be the wood falling off the leather anymore. So just, yeah. Trial by error, with a lot of background. I mean, that's really is we have the background in the fiberglass and steel and
Material,
materials.
glue. We have,
Your relationship. Fascinating. Like you see when couples work. I mean,
thank you. We appreciate that.
Hey, and Margaret. You guys are awesome.
Now we have to look those up.
So all the things.
Mhm.
Our first year in actual business, like you saw, we were making, and then we said, okay, we like doing this. We like being vendors. We love meeting people. Now, what do we really want to do? And he had wanted to learn to work with leather a couple of years before we did anything. And I have a serious addiction to Pinterest. And one purse with wood come up, and I said, well, that's interesting. And that was about 6 months before we went into business. And when he said, we're going to kick it up a notch, I said, that's what we're going to do. Because I'd only seen one in hours and hours of looking at Pinterest. So I knew that that was a great niche to get into.
Yeah.
It caught my eye. It was going to catch someone else's.
Yeah, we started our initially the LLC was to do industrial maintenance, freelance industrial maintenance, because I can walk in and fix whatever you need, and that's a thing. It's hard. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of travel. I actually bought this jacket because it's fire rated, and I don't know how you seem to be into it. This is actually a patch on the back, so I can wear my harness inside it. It has a door in the back, so the harness can come out between my shoulders. And the jacket was 3 days old when I set it on fire. So there's my first leather project. I took a brand new fire rated, safety harness rated jacket and burned a 2-inch hole in the arm. So that was the first leather project. And that's kind of what fed into that and into that.
Not at all.
Oh, it's yeah, I mean, pretty much any material at this point. Any ideas, any projects. It's really fun to do that. And I think the creative process, working on a short story of the creative process where essentially it starts out with a pile of things, then you sit in the room with a pile of things and it whispers to you. And then you start to do something with it and it whispers to you some more and you listen to its story and you invoke your parts to the story. And
We like to think of our shop as Geppetto's shop, where everything has its life. And it goes out. and
doesn't it
we-
look like a cartoon hammer?
It really does.
But yeah, and I wrote the story with the computer, and the thing that surprised me is it's currently 1,750 words, and about 2/3 of the way through the story is and it was done. That's the only sentence that mentions anything. I mean, everybody does art, so you know that you don't really ever finish anything. It just moves on or moves out. But and then the rest of the story is, of course, Once it's done, then you set it out, her presentation to the hordes of strangers that come, and probably our third show, a bag very much like the blue one with the window in it. Oh, we were at yeah, that one there, that red one there. We were at the Botanical Gardens, and this woman comes around the corner, and she just goes like this. She just walks straight for us across the parade ground, over the cement lip. I always like to say she stepped on the poor kid with the ice cream cone. He didn't know it was coming. She comes over, she picks this thing up, and she coddles it, and she hugs it, and she pets it. And her husband walks around the way you're supposed to go. And he walks up to us and says, "Here, I know the way this ends." So we've had 3 or 4 experiences where the items have absolutely spoken to the people that adopted them. So that's really a fun part for us. That absolutely feeds.
That was Zelda, my first bag that I made with wood. Yeah, they all have names.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is that veneer or is that,
to the left,
Um,
base?
Okay. Yeah, we were just talking about this.
this one.
Oh no, this is when I worked for the recycling company, Jim's dog passed. And Jim said,
Not in there.
"No, can you make an urn?" And Jim takes this piece of firewood that had been laying next to the dog's house for 5 years. Turns out it was maple. Turns out it's spalted. So this is spalted is okay. So if you look at this, you see how this wood looks like it's very bruised. What's happened is the ambrosia beetle makes the little tiny white holes, the little tiny black holes, I mean. And every place the ambrosia beetle bores, its saliva and excrement diseases the wood, kills the wood, and it turns brown. So I took this piece of spalted maple firewood, made an urn for his dog, and this is another.
We don't
Another
have any other
piece.
from it. We don't have any other from that tree.
No, my dad
That's-
actually made this guy.
Segmented turning for that. That's why it looks the way it does.
Yeah, that's.
So basically, here's another. I'll set this one on this side. You know what segmented turning is? So usually when you see somebody make a bowl, they take a chunk of wood and they put it on the lathe, they spin it round and round until you get a bowl. In our world, we take a board that's the size of the laptop when it's closed. I cut it into strips, 3/4 of an inch wide, 3/4 of an inch tall, cut it at 22.5 degree angles forever and ever and ever. And the width of the pieces determines how big the ring is. You glue your 12 pieces in the ring at 22.5 degrees, makes 360 degrees. Sand every piece, glue it, put a rubber band on it, stack it, sand it, glue it, put a ring on it, stack it. And then the next day you glue it together into stacks. So that vase didn't start out with a piece of wood that was 6 inches around and a foot tall. That vase started out with a piece of wood that was not much bigger than one of these little purses. It was probably a 12-inch stick, 2 inches wide. So you cut all the pieces together, glue them all together. The honeycomb board, as we said before, that's all cut. Pretty much we cut the 60-degree sides and laminate the walnut to it, cut it into slices and laminate it all together. Where's the chaos board? Yeah, there she is. We actually had to make 6 or 8 cutting boards for a wedding venue in Ohio. That the chaos board starts out as strips. Literally, this started out. I took probably 6 old. We use pallets at work, so I have access to pallets, and the guy who gets rid of them takes any of them that are particularly pretty. Oak, maple, walnut, cherry. I've gotten pallets of all of them. And he sets them aside for me. I made some negotiations so that our workshop is actually in the same building as my day job. So they magically evaporate. So we cut, for the cutting board project, I probably laminated up a 15-foot strip, 1.25 inches thick, and my planer, I have an electric planer as well. It'll take a 12.25 inch wide piece. So I laminated 1.25 inches thick, 12.5 inches wide, and the strips were between 3/8 and 5/8 of an inch thick, just little thin rulers, and glued them into a strip. And you made stripy. We cut a buffalo
We did.
out on one. We called them stripy buffalo. We had another box that we called stripy box because it was just that. But then when you're done making what you're making, you cut that, you put it across the bandsaw at a 10-degree angle, say, and then run it in strips across the table saw. Turn them all, glue it back together. Set a 9-degree angle, 12-degree angle, 17-degree angle on the saw, cut it into strips, turn it, glue it back together. Turn it, cut it, glue it back together. I think that chaos box is 7
Yeah.
7 laminations. So you start out with stripes, you cut it into squares or triangles or kind of sideways pentagons. Glue it back together and cut it again. And you can see where after 5 or 6 iterations, you can't really see the strips anymore. And all of the pieces are just in chaos. And it goes all the way through. It's not veneer. It's technically a lamination, but the lamination is vertical. It's like plywood is sheets glued on top of each other. This is, I've turned that sideways and glued.
That's another thing. The chaos boards are an end cut, so it's very thirsty. So it needs a lot of TLC, a lot of oils and rubbing. Where the other one here is just the face of it. It takes much less oil.
Pull on the paper clip, it actually opens up. There's a little hidey spot so you can hide
Your
your
card.
purse or hide your credit card or your money.
I do it. I do it.
I work between 40 and 60 hours for TapeCon, and I typically go to I'm supposed to be done work at 3:30. I try to be into the shop by 4. I try to leave between 8:30 and 9:30. I'm marginally successful at that. We try to spend between 15 and 20 hours on Saturday and Sunday between the 2 days in the shop. For Christmas time, I was working 40 hours in the shop on Saturday and Sunday because, well, that's where we were. So I guess I have to say it's a side gig at this point, although sometimes it does get full-time hours. I think we sold 38 pieces last year, which I think for your first year of doing something of this nature is kind of okay. We're hoping to sell between 60 and 70 pieces this year. And that's coming close to an income.
Most of our
So-
work is custom, so you'll see, basically our shelves are ideas. And you see something and you say, I like this part, but I wanted a different color or I want a different shape, dimension, and we'll just do that. Some do have linings.
I'll get it.
No, I will surprise myself and say, this person needs a lining.
This guy here, the blue leather, is made by a couple that runs, what's the company called?
Native
Native
leather
Leather
on
Transit
Transit.
Road, up near Salvatore's restaurant. But the blue leather, he and his wife made, well, basically in a stupor in their backyard. They have no idea how they got it to be that blue, but it was too thin to have any texture to be a purse. So we laminated it to a piece of leather on the inside, which turns out to be a lining, to make it stiffer. This one, the leather was pretty rough on the inside. Notice it's spalted maple again. But she thought that the, Robin actually put the
Yeah,
flannel on the inside of that.
it's a upholstery fabric. I like the colors.
I
for
showed the
fall.
other side of the room. I neglected you over here. This is obviously not done,
Yeah.
but it's getting pockets. And this started out to be, we sold our Heron clutch and everybody missed it. The emotional support purse. You understand now?
Now I have to get a cow.
There you go.
Chickens aren't bad enough.
Yeah. Despite what the internet will tell you, do not bring them in your house. Do not. Anyways, what? Pardon?
Either.
The cow. Yeah, there are videos with women that have the cow sleeping on their couch, and this is not going to go well. This is going to be very ugly very quick. So we started out putting linings as sort of a method of using thinner leather to do thicker projects, and it became lining it for decoration, lining it so you could fold pockets
This one's
into
got
it,
satin on the inside.
stuff like that. You know, piling you up over there. Sorry.
I just
You're
did
welcome.
one with a hot pink lining too. Patience really is a virtue. Patience saves you time and a redo. And I do not possess patience. What about you?
The coolest stuff comes out of the worst mistakes.
This is true.
No, all mistakes can be happy if you if you're in the right frame of mind. But that's where, yeah, that's probably the thing is yeah, it feels terrible when you figure out you've done something wrong, but something good is gonna come out of it one way or another.
Yeah, those ideas usually wake me up at 2 o'clock and I say, I can sleep better now.
So now I came up to talk for 10 minutes. I think I've done that probably 3 times now. I mean, all the questions, I'll talk to you forever. Sure.
I've struggled with the techniques that you use. It's very unusual. It's what a woodworker might do. Multiple, like the chaos box, right?
Yes.
Laminating that many times, turning it, cutting it, doing it again. What inspired you to take that different approach versus the more?
My job as a mechanic, over the last 15 years, I've been the mechanic, I've been the technician that fixes things. I didn't understand what was happening when it first started, but I worked out of Buffalo fixing trash compactors, and all of a sudden my boss would say, okay, so I want you to go here, and whatever's wrong, if it's less than $500, fix it. And if it's more than $500, call me. Okay, that turned out to be the standard. It was a not to exceed amount. Other customers said if it's less than $500, I don't even want to know, just fix it. So all of a sudden I get, I need you to be at this specific store 5 miles outside of Boston by 8 o'clock in the morning. And whatever is wrong, just fix it. No NTE. If the parts are in your truck, put them in. If they're not in the truck, call me. We'll send them overnight. Just fix it. And I found out that meant that on Saturday night, they sent one technician, and on Monday, they sent a second technician. And on Tuesday, they sent me, and no matter what's wrong, I'm going to fix it. So I got to be the technician that fixed what nobody else could fix. So the easy stuff became boring. And that's the answer to your question is I get bored doing the same thing twice, let alone 50 times, gets boring. So let's do stuff that the other people can't. Let's do stuff the other people don't want to do. And, I assume you're a woodworker, at least some. I'm guessing that that's an understatement. Mhm.
Nice.
My preferred finish is shellac, which is excrement from a beetle. It is crazy old Egyptian, biblical, 3, 4, 5. They're not really sure when people started covering things with shellac. But I mean, basically, it's an excrement from a beetle that when you see it, it's these little bubbles of clear that aren't sticky. Where pine tar is sticky, the shellac is not sticky. And it turns out it dissolves in alcohol, which people have been able to make for a long time. So my finish is, I was just reading that some people were saying that shellac was an unethical material
Sorry,
because
I'm
in the
paying
collection
attention.
process and the cleaning process of collecting the shellac and putting out a pound of flakes, that 10,000 lac beetles would die. So I just read that a couple of weeks ago. So yes, they a lot of beetles. But I'm not sure of the process, but that's just what I was reading. I haven't gotten thoroughly into that. Certainly, it's better than all of the plastic things that we're doing. But so when we started doing the cutting boards and things of that nature, I needed a finish that was food grade. Shellac is what makes M&Ms melt in your mouth, not in your hands. Shellac is what makes your yeah, what's the name? Little shiny eggs at Easter time. Gumdrops.
Jelly beans.
Jelly beans. Shellac is what makes your jelly bean hard on the outside and shiny. And we, instead of using denatured alcohol, we actually go to the liquor store and buy basically moonshine, 96% alcohol, clear grain liquor, and we dissolve our shellac in. Not that I ever want to do it, not that it tastes any good at all. It's just straight alcohol
you.
liquor.
We do,
So
yes.
yeah, but why do it the easy way? Everybody can do it the easy way.
Superior. I believe that it's either goat or color back white side.
Everybody
Holland.
see everything? Anybody have
It's a
one?
really pretty spotted cow. Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah, I
hide
mean,
is so cute. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's all related. It's the machines
Yeah,
and the
I
tools
thought
and
so too. And some woman said, no, we used to
this
live on a
splitting
farm. We
tool
had this
here.
cow."
Turns out it says C.S. Osborne, New Jersey. And C.S. Osborne moved from New Jersey to Ohio in the early 1800s. They've never replaced the sand mold. It's the same frame. They're making them today. You can buy that tool today, brand new. Sand mold's the same. So the old, the hat, the Edwardian, kind of the Edwardian feel, which truly turned out to be ironic because the English Edwardian times turns out to be the American Gilded Age from the late 1870s to I think King Edward died in 1909, and Roycroft was active till 1930, what? I don't know, eight.
Yeah.
So essentially it was created within a year or two of the same time and fairly well overlapped. So a lot of the tools are that age. All of the processes are that age.
We really like the aesthetic of the time. We try to put as many touches of that era as we can in it.
Turns out if you look up cigar box purses that Midland were making during the war, during World War I and World War II, you come up with something that's an awful lot like a box about this big that's got a handle on it and a strap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nothing's ever really new, but
The little blue purse is fashioned after an ammo box from Civil War era.
this guy,
Yeah.
this is the same. This is essentially the
same
pattern for
size
the
and
box that they
shape.
used in the Civil War for what ammunition? Was it for the powder bag?
Yeah.
So it was enough to carry enough black powder with you to do damage, but it was enough not to, burn the camp down if you were silly.
You could run away. Run
What?
away.
You're welcome.
Thank you.